Okay guys, I'm going to work out all the problems in number 2. You already did this assignment and submitted it, so don't be upset if you realize that you missed several. I only graded for completion. I just wanted to see your reasoning, but I do need you to learn from your mistakes and figure out how to do this because the next activity will be all about this. So listen to me, please, learn from it, correct your paper, whatever it'll take for you to learn. Okay, so the directions say for each of the following statements indicate whether it is always true, never true, or sometimes true. Circle the correct answer. If you choose sometimes true, then state on the line below when it is true. The first one is done for you. Okay, x plus 2 equals 3. Well, that can be true sometimes if and when x is equal to 1, because 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, easy enough. Second one, x minus 12 equals x plus 30. Will that ever be true? Well, reasoning tells me that will never be true. Because if you have x dollars and you subtract 12 from it, okay, you'll get an answer, right? You have the same x dollars and then you add 30 to it. Those two will never be the same. If you have x dollars and you take away 12, the value is going to go down. If you have x dollars and add 30 to it, the value is going to go up. So those two statements could never be true. But if you ever second guess yourself and you want to double check, this is one way you could do that. X minus 12 equals x plus 30. I'm just going to squeeze this in right here. So if I wanted to solve this, wouldn't I need to subtract x, just like when you would solve an equation? Look what happens. My x's cancel out here and here. And that leaves me with nothing but negative 12 equals 30. And that is definitely not a true statement. That's what we would call no solution. Negative 12 will never be the same as 30. So that is one way that you could double check yourself. Okay, let me erase this. Okay, let's go to the next one. 2 parentheses x plus 6 is equal to 2x plus 12. Is that always, never, or sometimes? Well, reasoning tells me it's always going to be true because look what happens. When you distribute the 2, which we've learned how to do, you're going to get 2x plus 12. This is exactly that. So this will always be true. Okay, let's look at the next one. 3 parentheses x minus 2 equals 3x minus 2. Well, distribute again, you get 3x minus 6. That is not the same as 3x minus 2. So I'm going to say that's never true. But let's just double check ourselves. So if I have 3x minus 6 equals 3x minus 2. Again, wouldn't you subtract 3x? Look what happens. I'm left with negative 6 equals negative 2. Again, negative 6 is not equal to negative 2. That's no solution. So it is never true. Okay, let's look at the next one. X plus 4 in parentheses being squared, and then x squared plus 4 squared. Is this always, never, or sometimes true? Well, let's see. This one is a little bit more difficult because you can't just solve it like a regular equation because of the x squared. But I will say this, reasoning will go a long way. So PEMDAS tells us that we have to do parentheses first, right? Okay, so if x is, say, 2, you would do 2 plus 4 and get 6, and then you would square the 6, right? Okay, and then remember we said let x be 2. Well, then that would be 2 squared plus 4 squared. Well, what is 6 squared? Let me get rid of that for just a minute. 6 squared is 36. 2 squared is 4. 4 squared is 16. Does 36 equal 20? No. So we know it's definitely not always true, okay? Just by that rule right there alone. All right, so Now that we know that it can't be always true, a lot of people always click always true right there because they think that the 2 in parentheses means x squared plus 4 squared, but it actually doesn't. It's actually x plus 4 times x plus 4. That's what that means. So don't let that fool you, because you will see something like that again, okay? All right. Well, let's see if there's a value for x that would ever make that true. Let's try 0. If I plug in 0, 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 squared is 16. If I plug in 0 on the other side, 0 squared is 0, plus 4 squared is 16. 0 plus 16 is 16. Oh, so we know it's going to be sometimes true if and when x is equal to 0. Let's see if there's any other value that would make that. Let me think here. If I plugged in, and this is another thing, you would trial and error. I've told my kids, now there are exceptions, but usually on these type problems, look at the biggest number in the problem. In this case, it's 4, right? Plug in every number that is that number or less. In other words, I would plug in -4 through +4. If that had been a 6, I would say plug in every value from -6 to +6 to see if any of those would result in a true statement. Now let me repeat, whatever number is in the problem, this is like a little cheat, a hint. Take each problem in that range from the negative version to the positive version, plug it in, you can use your calculator, and see if you ever get the same answer. The one above it, here, if I couldn't have worked it out and saw it for myself, the largest number is 3 in that problem, right? So I would have tried -3 to +3, plugging in to check myself. This one would have been a little bit harder, but thank goodness it was an easy one. I would have had it done from the range of -12 to 12, okay? So if it's not one that you could solve algebraically to get an answer, then do what I said. Use the trick of plugging in from the negative version to the positive version. Trial and error. I'm pretty sure that I'm right, that 0 is the only one that would work for this. But like I said, we could keep going. -4 plus 4 is 0. 0 squared is 0. So on this side, if I plugged in -4, I'd get 0. -4 squared is +16. Plus 16 is 32. Well, 0 definitely does not equal 32. So I'd plug in -3. -3 plus 4 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Okay? Plug in -3 on the other side. -3 squared would be +9 plus 16, which would be 25. Nope, doesn't work. Plug in -1. 3 squared is 9. -1 on the other side. -1 squared is 1. 1 plus 16 is 17. Nope, doesn't work. We already know that 0 does. Then you plug in 1. Do you see where I'm going? So 0 is the only one that would ever make it true. Okay. And last one. X squared plus 4 equals 0. Is that always, never, or sometimes true? Is there anything that I could plug in for x that would ever result in 0? Well, I can tell you from reasoning that there's not. Because if I plug in, remember it's 4, so you could plug in if you're not sure from -4 all the way up to 4. But notice that it's squared. And if you plug in a negative number and you square it, your answer is always going to be what? Positive. So no matter what you plug in, you're going to get a positive answer. If I plug in -4, -4 squared is +16. If I plugged in +4, I'm still going to get 16. So really, you only have to plug in 0 through 4 on this one. Does that make sense? I hope so. So when you plug in, no matter what, there is no way that that will ever have anything to make it true, because every time, even if you get 0 for x, you're going to add 4 to it. Well, 4 don't equal to 0. So, and the only way you could get 0 on this side is if there was a way to square x and get -4, because -4 plus 4 would be 0. But there's no way to square a number and get a negative number. Okay? I hope that makes sense. This is exact reasoning that you're going to have to do on the next 2 activities that I'm assigning you. Use reasoning, use trial and error, plugging in, solve an equation. I've given you several tools to use to help you work through the next activities. Good luck. Let me know if you need me.